Alex from Bainhart. I thought I'd just do a quick review on these Caraya classical guitars. You can get these from Haze guitars or from eBay, from their eBay store, and they cost around $250. These are an inexpensive classical guitar which come with a pickup system, an onboard tuner. There's not really much going on here, but for $250, this is a very affordable guitar, especially having an onboard system on it. So, how does it sound acoustically? I thought I'd just do a quick review of it, seeing as I got one in the shop. How does it sound acoustically? It sounds a lot better than you'd probably expect a Finline Classical to sound. I'm actually pretty impressed with it. Again, guitars like this, I would recommend Finlines for two reasons. One, you want something that's actually really comfortable and easy to play close to the body, which is a big draw card or something like this, because as you know, normal acoustic bodies tend to sit further out, and it can be a little bit uncomfortable, especially when your arm is sitting on top of it. Secondly, there's another reason you want one of these, and that is if you're not really relying on the acoustic sound. For example, if you're doing a little bit of gigging here and there and you need a classical guitar for 2 or 3 songs, and you're going to be relying on the sound of the pickup, well then something like this is going to be fantastic, because the acoustic sound of the guitar isn't really going to matter that much anyway. How does the pickup sound on this? Honestly, it doesn't sound bad. I haven't really had any issues with it. It sounds like a classical guitar, and it sounds quite nice, to be honest. I played it through my acoustic amp and had no issues with it whatsoever. Is it the best sounding guitar in the world? Absolutely not. It is not the best sounding guitar in the world. Does it sound does it sound better than a $250 guitar? And the answer to that is just absolutely yes. I couldn't fault it on that. I've absolutely played better guitars, but I've had the fortune of playing guitars that are worth multiple thousands of dollars, and this obviously does not compare. But at $250, do we really expect it to? And the answer to that hopefully should be no. Out of the box, these come with quite a high action. So for your $250, you get a guitar that doesn't honestly play that great. Again, that is something that I would expect in that price point. So for this guitar, which I'm setting up for a student, this student obviously wants the guitar to be easy to play when they learn. The nut has been filed down so that it doesn't feel horrible when you're playing open chords, because it really didn't feel particularly good. And the saddle, which was basically in the sky, has been lowered to an acceptable level. To do this, I did have to get the truss rod appropriately aligned, and yes, this classical guitar does have a truss rod. It's not a traditional build in that way. It does actually come with a truss rod in it, which for me is incredibly helpful on an instrument like this, because it makes setting it up a breeze. When we're looking at that kind of price range, we absolutely expect there to be fret issues. So let's quickly see what kind of fret issues we'll get. I do know the answer to this question because I set this instrument up, but this one is flat, 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 flat. A slight rock there. The rest of the fret there is flat, flat, flat. Oh, slight rock actually, but flat on top. Very minor rock, which continues for the entire fret. Flat, 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 flat. Minor rock there. Minor rock here. Minor rock. And flat. Now, if you don't know what you're looking at there, that might seem pretty bad to you, because there was a multiple numbers of rocks going on there. Now, these rocks were very, very minor. By that I mean there was not a lot of difference in the height. There wasn't, the lows weren't particularly low and the highs weren't particularly high. Some frets really have quite a significant and pronounced rock. This didn't have any of that. In fact, it was so minor that it didn't affect my ability to set up this instrument in any way, shape, or form. Some instruments, and this was very typical many years ago when quality control wasn't as good on cheaper instruments, to get an action this low, I would have had to have done a fret level. This instrument's fine. It doesn't need any additional work out of the box. It just needed the strings to be lowered. I've worked on a couple of these and they've all been identical. I mean identical. Almost none of them need a fretwork out of the box. They just need really a basic setup, and then they play great. So again, I'm not sponsored by Carrera or by Haze Guitars, who sells these from Kookaburra Music. I'm not sponsored by them in any way. But I do find guitars like this a little bit exciting because they bring a type of a guitar that at a price point which is just really competitive and really fun, especially for something like this. For a lot of people buying guitars of this stature is a secondary guitar to them. They want a nylon string acoustic guitar in their collection, and they don't want it to be absolutely amazing because they're not going to play it all the time. For that purpose, this guitar is fantastic. The other option is for people who are buying their first instrument or an instrument for their child, in which case this is also a fantastic option because a lot of people just do not want to spend more than $300 on an instrument for their child. With the justification usually being, I don't know if they're going to play it. I don't know if they're going to want to play the guitar. I just don't want something lying around in the future that doesn't get played or touched. And those are somewhat understandable arguments. Unfortunately, the consequence of that argument is sometimes buying a $120, $150 instrument which just doesn't play. It doesn't play well. And as a result, the student actually gives up on the instrument because it's not a playable instrument. And that's sad. An instrument like this has the capacity to actually deliver a quality experience to the student, provided that it is set up. In which case, then an instrument like this can actually be a real gateway to someone learning the guitar properly. And that's exciting because it's in a price point that most people on a tight budget can afford, but it is not rubbish. This is not a junk instrument. And I know some maybe more snobby people amongst there might disagree with that and say that this isn't a good instrument. And I understand that viewpoint. If you're going to compare it to, say, $1,000 to $2,000 instruments, yes, but this is objectively fine. I think I could give this to any accomplished player. In fact, I have seen an accomplished player play one of these, and it sounded just fine. I asked this actually classically trained player what he thought of it, and he said, I don't particularly enjoy the sound of it. It sounds cheap to me. And I said, well, that's fair because it's $250. But I had set this instrument up and I said, how did it play? And he goes, it plays fine. This is a guy who's played for 35 years classically. If he thinks the guitar plays fine, I'm inclined to believe him. From my own experience, it plays fine, but especially to someone who lives on these instruments, he said it's absolutely fine. It was the sound that he had the biggest grievance with. And again, it's a thin line that costs $250. We don't expect this to win acoustic awards for its sound quality, but it's decent. Very decent. And the acoustic sound is not terrible. When I say it's not amazing, by that I mean in compared to high-tier quality instruments. Other than that, this is not terrible. I had an acoustic guitar when I was first learning to play, which sounded genuinely terrible. You know how I know it plays genuinely terrible and sounded terrible? Because I still have it, and it still sounds terrible, and it still plays terrible. But it's my first guitar, and I persevered through it. So yeah, if you can get a guitar like this for a beginner, or you want to add one to your collection, with minor setup work, there's no reason why this cannot be a fantastic, fantastic guitar. I found that exciting, and I hope you do too. Have fun.